You're with Clement Manyatela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Clement Manyatela Show. I hope you're good this morning and that your week is going well so far. It's great to have you with us here on 702. Let's kick off the show with the 702 open line this hour. Duduzile Zuma has apologized to the MK party for the words that she used when she was attacking the party's Secretary General Floyd Shivambu on Twitter this week. She released a statement yesterday apologizing to her father, the leadership of the MK party, and the structures of the party for how she conducted herself. She said in the statement, and I quote, "I acknowledge that expressing these grievances publicly was unfortunate and may have undermined the unity, the discipline and respect that defines the MK party." She went further to say, "My deepest apology for any offense caused in this regard." But this apology was not directed at Floyd Shivambu. And her father said she must apologize to Floyd as well. So she's basically saying sorry, but not sorry. How do you like being apologized to? And are you a fan of apologizing? There are apology gurus out there. They will apologize for everything. You know those people I'm talking about who apologize for the bad weather, or apologize for things that they have no control over. Are you that person, or do you know these kinds of people? And then, of course, you've got people who are just not good with apologies. They struggle to say sorry. And if they are pushed to, they will say it reluctantly or not fully, which is another interesting bunch of people. So what makes an apology acceptable to you? Do you care how people apologize? You know, some people say the apology should be as loud as an insult or the offense that was caused. Not sure about that. Where do you stand on this? 011-883-0702. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0727021702. I really would like us to have a chat as well about the United Nations as a multilateral organization. And I know we've had this chat before. But isn't the United Nations useless? And I say this respectfully. Isn't it useless in as far as its intention and role to protect human rights abuses is concerned? Its role to protect the weakest from the powerful in the world. Because I'm honestly beginning to lose hope in this institution. And we all need this institution to work. The US is busy proposing to take over Gaza and own it. We had that chat yesterday. We don't have to repeat that. I just want us to focus our chat this morning on the United Nations as a body. Because who else do you run to apart from international courts like the ICJ or the ICC, which have their own politics and limitations? I think it's important to understand how the United Nations was formed, right? After World War II, which was the largest and deadliest conflict in human history, the United Nations was created as a peacekeeping force because there was a realization that we need to find other ways to resolve conflict. But how effective has it been, really? Honestly reflecting, how effectively has it been when dealing with powerful countries? Because I think it has partly failed. Not entirely, but partly failed. And even in small instances where it's failed, the cost has just simply been too high. How do you make this multilateral institution that we all need work? How do we make it work for all of us? How do we dismantle this system of allyship in the institution where you've got countries that end up backing each other, not on principle, but because we are big brothers, we are allies? So I'm asking you this morning if you have hope in the United Nations. When you assess the United Nations, has it worked to prevent human rights abuses? Has it worked to promote peace in cases where rich and powerful countries or countries close to the superpowers are at fault? Let me know your thoughts. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702 for your WhatsApp.
Clement Maniatella, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
One of them and team there. Yeah, for me, an apology must just come the moment I say it to you that what you have done is wrong, Clement. And then if you see it that is wrong what you have done, and there's a need for you to apologize, then you have to say, I'm sorry. But the moment we argue, and me, I'm trying to make you see that what you did is wrong, and you're trying to justify it, then after an hour or so of back and forth, then you say, no, I'm sorry. Then to me, that apology doesn't make any sense. If you know that you are wrong, then if I tell you that you are wrong, you see that you are wrong, then you apologize. It's done. Doesn't have to take in the minutes or hours for you to see that what you've done is wrong. If what you've done is wrong, don't justify it. Just if you want to apologize, end of story. As quickly as you can. Thanks, Clement.
Morning, sir. I'll remain anonymous, but I want to comment me on the issues of the people that like to apologize. I believe that there are people that have learned the skill of apology. They have learned the skill to say they are sorry. It became their DNA, and through it, they have learned to manipulate. They will do certain things by purpose. Knowing that it will hurt you, then they will come to you and ask for forgiveness. And through that, I'm sorry to say that it has even been associated with witchcraft, this thing of saying sorry, because they have learned that when they manipulate the mind, you will be sorrowful, you will be sad, and when through your sadness, they take advantage of you. So me, I believe the real sorry that exists is the sorry where people, they change in behavior. You don't need to come to me and say you are sorry. You need to change your character, you need to change your behavior. People need to see you from a distance that you are sorry. You don't need to say it verbally. So I no longer take verbal sorries. When you say verbal, you are sorry, me, I ignore you. It means nothing. Thank you very much.
Oh, Clement, talking about the apology, I am not a big fan of apologizing, but then I will apologize for the sake of apologizing. It's more of the thing with the work that I do. Like, you find that I have to apologize for something that I'm not even responsible for. It's so hard for me to apologize. Like, I can't apologize. But then I think I'm selfish because I expect people to fully apologize when they have wronged me. So, that's tricky. Like, that's so tricky.
Good morning, Clement. It's Patty here from Fairview. I think United Nations is just like an old barking dog with no teeth. They've just become a mockery. That's the same as the so-called SADC. Wow. Thank you.
So what do we do? What do we do? Where do we run to? God forbid we see and experience in our lifetime World War III. Where do we go? The rich superpowers, the powerful countries are there to exploit resources in smaller, weaker countries. It's happened with colonialism, where people were sitting there in Europe and they were just choosing, we're going to go occupy that land. We're choosing this part of Africa. How is that different from what Donald Trump is doing now? Just picking a place in Palestine and saying, we'll take over that. And the people must go be resettled somewhere. So I'm asking, where do we run to? And I'm scared of the world we live in now, where the institutions that are supposed to protect The weaker, less powerful countries from the superpowers are not working. They're not working in as far as the powerful countries are concerned. And they've not worked for a while. And maybe we need to rethink how the United Nations operates and how it's structured. You don't want to give it too much power to the extent that it will undermine the sovereignty of other countries. That's not what I'm suggesting, because that power can be abused by the same superpowers who are members of the United Nations, and they donate billions to the organization. But the United Nations needs some teeth. If they are firm and they take action against, let's say, the US, they are also scared that there are lots of money that flows from the US into the United Nations. So what's going to happen to the organization? So we end up being reliant on who's funding us. And in the process, we compromise on what the mandate of this organization should be. So I don't know what's going to get this multilateral organization to work for all of us. I really don't know. But it's not looking good. If the P5 countries are going to, so much power is going to continue being concentrated in them. The US, China, Russia, France, the UK, where they can just veto anything, where they can just support their friends, even when it's not based on principle and the rule of law. And they're not prepared to give up their veto power. That's a very dangerous world we live in, my friends. It really is. It's 19 minutes after 9.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyatela.
on 702.
Wasn't it great yesterday during the debate in Parliament to hear leaders of the opposition parties coming together to defend our country? It was great for me. Defending our country in the face of hostility from President Trump. So I'm always impressed. Let me say this first. I'm always impressed with the EFF on how it conducts itself during a serious crisis that requires all hands on deck. And I'm not talking about local political issues. Like, let's think of COVID. Even as an opposition party, they said to government, yes, we don't agree with you on a number of issues. We disagree with each other most of the time. But we are in this together. You can count on us. And I think it takes political maturity to do that. And I've always given Julius Malema credit for that. He did the same thing with Trump's lies, where he says, this is our country and this is our government, and we will defend it in the face of attacks from outside, albeit with all our disagreements. And I can count other issues as well, where the party has come to the party. But they know when to fight and they know when to sit and be part of the solution. The DA, on the other hand, wasn't so helpful during COVID. I mean, they still wanted to play politics. And I remember calling it out even back then on my show, on this show in 2020. And I see they've come around this time with these attacks from the US, which is commendable. And I really give them credit for that. They realize they must be part of the solution, even though they could be doing it because they are in government now and their interests are treated, their interests are threatened as well. Either way, I'm glad that they're learning to be part of the solution when it's required. When we talk about the effective opposition, we're talking about an opposition that's just always shouting at the top of their lungs every single day. They're just finding a way to be in opposition even when that's not necessary. Take a listen to Julius Malema during the debate in Parliament yesterday.
Mr. President, we are not being attacked by Trump administration because you did anything wrong. They are attacking us because of our stand on Israel. They are attacking us because of the action the government has taken to ICJ. And we are saying to you, do not be misled by people who are saying you are under siege because of expropriation, which is meaningless act. That act does not say anything, and they all understand that language. They are using it to fight our case against Israel. And when you say they cannot bully us, you must start by removing the Israeli embassy to show them that we will not be bullied. Thank you very much.
So that was Julius Malema. Here's what John Steenhuisen said.
We confront a new threat. US tariff barriers, potential threat of AGOA, and possibly even sanctions by a regime driven by an administration that will put America's interests ahead of ours. And make no mistake about that. And so what do? When a country faces a crisis, it needs to unite and navigate the threat. And that is what we must do now. And the GNU must practice what it preaches. And that is why, in a variety of portfolios, we've taken a decision to focus like a laser beam on growth and jobs. And that was what the President set out in the SONA.
And John Hlophe, who's the Deputy President of the MK Party.
While we expect President Desmond Trump, while we expect President Donald Trump to end the imperialist war of NATO in Russia and to dissociate from the neo-colonial and dishonest so-called green energy transactions imposed on the developing world, we do not agree with him and his promotion of white supremacists who claim they are facing genocide in South Africa. Control of people as a whole and not the privileged few beneficiaries of apartheid and colonialism. That is our demand.
Yeah, so that's John Hlophe. It's so interesting because they called Donald Trump a beacon of hope. When Donald Trump was appointed, they released a whole statement praising him. And now, here we are. Aye. Politics, eh? It's 24 after 9.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyatela
on 702.
Hi, Clement. Great show as always. Now, the story of the United Nations has some familiarity around it, almost like, those who ignore history learn nothing. So the League of Nations accused Italy of, its soldiers targeting the Red Cross as well as Red Crescent movement tents during Italy's invasion of Ethiopia. And what did Benito Mussolini say? The League is very well when sparrows shout, but no good at all when eagles fall out. So, when you're really looking at the big eagles, that is your big nations, as long as they say whatever they want and protect whoever they want, then the United Nations almost finds itself in a position where it can't really do anything. And while African leaders after African leaders have called for reform of the United Nations, as long as it doesn't benefit the global north, we're just going to have to get the crumbs of what they feel we should get.
Hi, Clement. In my view, the formula of United Nations was already poisoned the moment the big countries give themselves veto powers. Because basically what that means is that they can refuse a resolution based on what they don't like. Yeah, 2 cents what Jimmy Beaton.
Clement, good morning. It's Roger C. Leondale. Clement, I don't know why people have got this perception of in the mind that the UN was meant for everybody. No, it wasn't. Call everybody who's an expert, even the UN chief himself. Ask him, when was the last time UN stopped a war in the world? Tell me. So we are just, for me, if you've got that notion that the UN is there to stop people, there's nothing like that. It's everyone for each himself. So for us Africans, we just have to wake up. We've been sleeping for 400 years. We are still sleeping. Hey, we don't know, man. It's a generational case.
Yeah, but that's not what the United Nations was when it was formed. That's not what we were told. If we were told that the United Nations is there to serve a few, then I wouldn't have the expectations I have. I would actually just accept it. Unless we were lied to. But then we live in a world where money talks. Money does really talk. So if Trump is going to threaten to remove or take away some monies that an organization was benefiting hugely from, those organizations are going to start thinking differently sometimes about how they do things just so that they protect themselves. But unfortunately, that need to protect themselves comes at a cost of lives, comes at a cost of human rights abuses. So we need to find a way to get the United Nations to work for all of us. Koketso, you're calling from Rustenburg. What are your thoughts? Good morning. Hi, Koketso. I don't know what's wrong with Koketso there. Putting Koketso back to the producers to just re-establish that line. In the meantime, I'm going to read these messages that have come through also on the United Nations. This one, Anonymous from Bramley, says, Clement, according to history, the United Nations has only succeeded in keeping weak countries weak and strong nations stronger. The US is way more powerful than all United Nations combined. Look at all the conflicts. None has ever been solved by the United Nations resolutions. The United Nations is a waste of time and resources. That's Anonymous in Bramley. Okay, sure, I hear you, Anonymous, but what is the solution? What do you think we do next? Where do we run to? Because we need organizations like that. We need a multilateral organizations whose mandate is to promote peace, whose mandate is to protect the weak from the powerful. Because otherwise it's going to be animal farm. Rich countries are going to be treated differently to how poorer countries are treated. Rich countries can do whatever they want to do with poorer countries, and we're not going to have an institution at a global level that rationalizes things. Hey? Here's some more WhatsApp voice notes on the maturity of political parties when we are in crisis.
Good morning, 702 Clement. And Malema's right. Exactly right. Exactly. We took on Israel, and obviously that's part of the conversation you're not willing to consider. That's the reason, the main reason, why America is against South Africa, withholding funding, etc., etc. And so that's the bottom line. We've attacked their greatest ally. What do you expect? Tyron Randburg.
Tyron, we spoke about that already last week. When Trump made those comments, we already discussed it, that it's got nothing to do with Trump's care for the Afrikaner community in this country. We said a similar thing again on Monday when we had this chat. This has got everything to do with the bigger issues. In fact, Trump himself, when he signed that executive order, mentioned that you took the Israel to the ICJ. You are hostile towards American allies. So that's not news. What Julius Malema is saying now is not news. It's something we've been discussing since last week. Having said that, that doesn't make it right. The fact that Donald Trump is trying to force our hand by withdrawing aid or threatening all sorts of things and creating an impression that the Afrikaner group is somehow being persecuted here, just to force our hand on issues of global affairs where we've taken specific foreign policy, that doesn't make it right. It doesn't. Donald Trump doesn't own South Africa. We are a sovereign state. We are always going to make decisions that are not going to be in favor of some of our allies. We're going to make decisions that Vladimir Putin, as our so-called ally, doesn't agree with. So what? He must come through and withdraw aid and decide, I don't want anything to do with this country anymore because they don't want to do what I want. They don't want to be friends with people I want to be friends with. That's not how the world works. It's 9:31.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyatela
on 702.
24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's continue with your calls and WhatsApps on the 702 open line. I've asked you about apologies. I've asked you about the United Nations and what we need to do because it looks really, really scary. And I think one person on Twitter says to me, which I absolutely agree with. Where's that tweet? Says Clement, Pumu says, Clement, it is very scary what's happening currently. It feels like history will be repeating itself. Colonialism, apartheid, and ethnic cleansing happening and being discussed in real time. Wars happening, and we know slavery had not fully ended in some parts of the world. It had just evolved. And I agree with you, Pumu, because without the United Nations, without multilateral institutions that can serve as a buffer and protect us, then what stops ethnic cleansing from happening? What stops apartheid from repeating itself? What stops colonialism? We are in dangerous times. And I'm asking, what is the solution? Someone else says, Clement, Antonio Guterres is probably out of breath with pleading. Like I said before, we're witnessing the rebirth of new nationalism. Another one says, Clement, these global organizations are an old boys club, toothless, but a lot of talk. The UN, the AU, SADC, and many others. If UN was functional, the issue of Palestine and Israel would have been resolved a long time ago. And then someone else, Clement, Trevor says, Clement, he who feeds you controls you. The United Nations is an American proxy. That's a message there from Trevor. I've also been asking you about apologies. Are you a kind of person who apologizes? Are you good at that? Are you a type that really struggles to apologize? Duduzile Sambudla-Zuma has apologized to the MK party leadership and structures, but she's not apologizing to Floyd Shivambu for insulting him as directed by her dad, because her father and leader of the MK party said you have to apologize to Floyd as well. She didn't.
Clement, trust you well. You see, she is requested to apologize to Shivambu and the party for having insulted Shivambu. Had it been somebody else, that person would have been suspended, probably fired by now. You see, the family business party. To your question about apologies, it's important to, I believe, to apologize for what you have said or done, not to what you think people are judging you on or thinking you have done. One must be specific and apologize for exactly what you said or done, not what you think people judge you on. Yeah.
Morning, Clement. Morning to all the 702 listeners. Clement, for me, I don't think the whole process is being done properly. When I say I am sorry, it means I am sorry. I am asking for forgiveness for what I've said or what I've done. Duduzile was told to apologize. It did not come out of her. So she is not sorry. So us fussing over the apology and everything else, we all know she's not sorry. She meant what she said. It's just as pure as day. That's how she feels. Leave her alone. Punish her through the party's whatever structures, but to force her to say sorry when she's not, it's just playing games and, yeah, old man making his daughter, trying to salvage what his daughter did. But, yeah, it is what it is. Max from the West.
Yeah, good morning, Clement and the team. Yeah, for me, in regard to apology, I would like an individual who sort of did anything wrong to me. If they are intended to apologize, they can just write a message whereby they will be indicating as to how they are sorry, etc., etc. Then subsequent to that, when I meet with those individuals, I would like them to kind of exhibit that sense of remorse, you know, that we are sorry indeed. Yeah, that's what I do prefer. Yeah, this is Maxwell in Q.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyatela
on 702.
Taboho, you calling us from Senton. You want to comment on the United Nations. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Clement. Good morning to the listeners. Thank you so much. Very important topic. But I think, Clement, in discussing the topic, you're missing very important points in terms of diagnosis. We know all these world bodies that are meant to assist the world are just control oligarchs. That's what the people that are driving them are in actual fact. We're dealing with here with capitalism at a very high level, imperialism at another level, as well as the real recolonization of the world but more importantly, it's powerful people with money that influence these organizations. So they're not about the agenda of really solving problems. I'll give you an example. You have WHO. Their agenda is supposed to be health. But what do? They are dealing with depopulating the world using all sorts of mechanisms, being influenced by one man and his foundation, Bill Gates, and giving so much money. And somebody said, he who pays actually controls.
How are they depopulating? What are those things you're saying they're doing to depopulate the world?
The nearest example is that if you follow the news, Pfizer and Moderna, they're being held accountable. The issue of vaccines, there's no science in there. It's about an agenda of an individual who's making money through pharmaceutical industries to depopulate the world because of how many people died more than the people who lived. And when you start talking like this, people talk about conspiracy theory. It's a good thing to be a conspiracy theorist because of then you don't get told and you take things from being told.
Look, I agree with you, Tebogo. I absolutely accept different views to what other people hold. So even you have a right to hold a different view if you believe it, but I must still ask because we also don't want to be irresponsible here and make claims that we can substantiate. Because otherwise, I can say to you, the United Nations is the one that invented COVID-19 because they just wanted to kill people in China or around the world. That's an irresponsible statement. So we need to be very careful of that. So when you say the World Health Organization wants to depopulate, you better have something that you have as backup because otherwise you're taking whatever you take without having done the important work of reading and researching before you mention things like that in front of thousands of people.
But
do you get what I mean?
These are no secret statements. If you go to the websites of these organizations, they put it out there. It's not. They don't even hide it anymore.
Where? So tell me, I'll go to the website right now. Where do I go?
Come again?
Should I go to the World Health Organization website right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm saying that. Clement, I'm challenging you to go to their website.
I am on the website now. Show me where to go.
Website?
Yeah, show me where to go, where they say they exist.
Well, I'm on my phone and I'm in the car.
Tell me.
I'm in the car, so
don't go. I will go. So it's the World Health Organization website. Should I go to where do I go? Do I go to their information? Do I go to About Us? Where did you see it exactly?
Go to the objectives of the World Health Organizations. Why they were set up?
Okay.
In the first place.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll go there. I'm going to find it here and I'll read it for the listener. So we will find where they say they exist to depopulate the world.
Yeah, well, I'm not quoting them verbatim, but it's the population control.
Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you, Tebogo, for calling us. I do agree, though, with Tebogo in that these world bodies are influenced by philanthropic capitalism. I think that's the point that Tebogo is also trying to raise. But we also need to be careful. I don't like generalizations, which is why I've said even before that part of my mission this year is to actually even listen more, because I've been doing it now. Listen more to people I even disagree with. The people that we deem as conspiracy theories, I want to hear them. But there must be people who also are able to back what they say. You know, I've told you guys about Candace Owens. You can check out her YouTube channel. She is wild. Just be ready to be confronted with like crazy things. I disagree 80% with the things that she says, but every time I listen and I watch her, I always have a different perspective about something, or I re-emphasize the perspective that I have and I stand to that truth. I learn something, and we need to learn that. You don't have to listen to people you agree with, which is what I said, group thought. Remember what I said about group thought? We live in a world that wants us to think the same. All of you must hate Zuma, or all of you must hate ANC. That's why during the elections, people were even scared to call in who are members of the ANC. And I said, no, call in. It's okay. It's okay to say I'm a member of the MK party. And we must stop branding people as they are weird. No, they are different. We live in a world that is big enough for all of us. But we also have a responsibility. You can't just come and say, oh, Clement is a witch with a snake in his house. And what, we must just take that. Give me a sense. Why do you believe so? I think that's more rational, no? Godfrey, You are in Soweto. What are your thoughts?
Hi, Clement. I think we should put the blame on ourselves for having been misled for so many years by the United Nations and its ineffectiveness as far as Africa is concerned. And when the IMF and all these institutions are U.S. protected, U.S. based, U.S. biased, that even our own brother leader was killed under the very nose of the AU and with NATO and all that. So shame on us, Clement, that we've been so gullible about United Nations purely because the Secretary General, I don't know when, I don't remember when they had a Secretary General from the US. It will always come from elsewhere. But that manipulation of you can't bite the and you can talk as much as you can in terms of freedom of speech there. But when these guys get in, and we bought into the so-called democracy that now can show that you can get executive orders. None of these African countries can operate with executive order. But
they will be sanctioned the next day, Godfrey.
Yeah,
if they dare do that.
Yeah, and so what's the point of voting when the people are not going to be told by a guy with executive powers? And for that matter, Elon Musk is already head of this POGE that tells people to come back to work because there's something in it for him, in terms of as long as we are naively believing that the military is not funding the presidency of or the presidential race in the U.S. And we think the guns would be silenced, then we're very naive, really, because it is not in the interest of the President of the United States and the people supporting them, including, you can go back to Dick Cheney, one of the most censored authors that spoke anti-American sentiment. You will remember was Noam Chomsky, who just died recently. And Noam Chomsky was silenced and banned and everything by the U.S. because he never put up with the nonsense of the of the U.S. Superman or policeman of the world, which we have probably at some stage created a road for our own backsides. We stood by and we thought America. All our presidents, all our leadership, what do they do when they have state visits? UK, then they go to the US. So something is absolutely wrong about our own understanding of what our relationship is with these demagogues or these Democrats, as we call them. Lastly, Clement, we should never have gone for non-racialism. You can't be non-racial when things are nationalistic. These guys now have a national cause to protect. They have something to die for, which we don't have. What is non-racialism? Why will we fight to death when we know that we are this non-racial democratic way, when, it can be flipped the following day, and when nationalists and racists show themselves like Donald Trump, we don't tell them so, and we don't behave so.
But they don't represent the whole white population of groups that they come from, right, Godfrey? There are people the black and white people who believe in non-racialism, who believe in making this country work. So just because that there are a few black people out there who don't want that, or a few white people who don't believe in non-racialism in a country where we've got equal opportunities, doesn't mean that that's not an ideal to pursue.
No, I think the mistake that you and I must not make, with due respect to the Manyatela, is the fact that when you say the majority of people, the blacks are in the minority in the U.S. Let's be sure. And even in terms of Europe and the world, we are always the hewers of wood and the drawers of water. We are in the minority there. So these nationalists are not only appearing in the U.S. Brazil had their own fair share of production of this demagogues. So I'm not sure that we're not seeing a national movement everywhere.
Globally.
That is my theory. That we thought we could embrace white people as humans and would be embraced in return. And that is the worst mistake that we've done.
But what was the
I'm
option
sorry.
then, Godfrey? You're scaring me now. What would have been the option then after
No,
apartheid?
the option is for ANC should never have gone, in my view. It should never have gone into that UDF, non-racial, democratic, non-sexist, whatnot. It's a very amorphous, nonsensical thing. The African National Congress was nationalist in its approach. And in their eagerness to fight with PAC, dumped nationalism. We've got, there's got to be a South African nation. There's got to be an African dream. As somebody said,
My question again, Godfrey, but you're not answering me. What is the other? So after apartheid, there were black and white people in this country. What would have been the option then? If you're saying what we went with,
create nationalism, not so-called non-racialism, because something that's none, that doesn't exist, is just a pipe dream.
So what does that
Even the
mean for
rainbow.
white people? Nationalism.
Yeah, and somebody said to in another comment, Clement, even the rainbow ends. How long does the rainbow last? You've never had the rainbow for months and months. After the rain, Yana, the rainbow will show on one corner of the sky and then it disappears. The rainbow nation is gone.
Okay,
Make no mistake about
but if you're saying we go for nationalism, what does that mean for white people who belong to this country?
As long as they owe, as Sobugo would have said, as long as they swear allegiance to Africa and allegiance to Africa, like these guys are doing now in GNU, they are fine. They're Africans. They are national.
Okay.
And
Then
they
I hear
themselves were the nationalist party, remember?
Okay, yeah. Godfrey, thank you so much for calling. Great insights. The Able is going to kill me because I need to take a break. I'm glad, though, that at the end, Godfrey says, as long as they show allegiance. I mean, I don't know of white people who live in this country and they don't think they belong or they show their allegiance to the African continent or this country. But we made a choice after apartheid. We made a choice that there's not going to be a revolution. There's not going to be war. There's not going to be a government that's overtaken through arms. We made a choice to go through the route we went through. Has it worked completely for us? Maybe not. Has it worked? Absolutely. In some parts. There's still some challenges that we're dealing with, but make no mistake, the other option would have had really, really severe consequences. What do you think? It's 5 minutes before 10.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyatela.
on 702.
Right, so I've been on the World Health Organization website trying to figure out that part that Tebogo was talking about, and I really still can't find it. So, I don't know. Debza, if you're listening, maybe send us a message on 072-702-1702. Screen grab what it says on the World Health Organization website, and I'll read it for the listeners, where the World Health Organization exists to depopulate.
Good morning, Clement. The person who just talks about World Health Organization, that narrative keeps coming and going, especially now that there was another viral disease that seems to have been coming through. And they said it's a deliberate thing to depopulate Africa. It's irresponsible of a lot of educated people to keep saying that, because a lot of less literate people pick that up easily and hold on to that.
Good morning, Clement. It's Andrew from Kempton Park. Clement, if I house you in my property and give you money to pay rent in my property, then I can tell you what to do. I can even tell you when to cook mogodu and when not to cook mogodu. The United Nations is housed in the United States, and the United States is giving the United Nations money to pay rent for that building that they occupy.
Big building.
So the United States has got the right to tell them what to do. It must just get out of the United States and things will work out. Thank you. Bye.
I absolutely don't agree with that. The ICC is based in The Hague. So what? The government there must somehow be able to dictate to them. I don't know how much, of course, the government there helps, whether they're even sponsoring that building, but I don't think that's the way it should work. That was never the arrangement. If that was the arrangement from the word go, then absolutely I get it. Yes, the United Nations is housed there in New York. Huge building. Yes, the billions that come from the US to assist the work of this multilateral organization. But the commitment the US made wasn't that we're going to treat you as a little child in our household. The commitment was, whether we're giving you more or another country gives you more, we're all equal here. And we all are pushing for a mandate to support you, to promote peace, to protect and to prevent human rights abuses. That's what the United States committed to. A minute before 10. Welcome to the second hour of the show. I want to wrap up the 702 open line with a few WhatsApp voice notes because I didn't play a lot of them in the previous hour. So let's wrap up with them before we get to our next conversation.
Good morning, 702. It's Ronald in Springs. About the United Nations, I think the one that's there, that old one, is for only 5 countries that have got veto. And the rest of the world are just allies to those 5 countries. So our remedy is actually to abolish the old one and form a new one. That will be a United Nations. That one is not a United Nations. It's just United Allies, actually. So our remedy is form a new one. Put in new laws there and let those who agree to those laws join in. That will be a new United Nations.
Clement and the team, I think especially African countries, we must fight corruption because that money that goes to corruption, we can use it for our own people, and stop using Americans and Europe as our SASA officers. We must look after our money. Look at the money we lost the previous or all these other years. It's Veronica from Sprayed. Bye-bye.
Morning, Clement. We were lied to when it comes to the United Nations. I think we've been lied to many, many times, including potentially during slavery. What we need to understand, especially African countries, is that we need to get out of this mindset that the world is going to treat us fairly. What matters in this world is money. The country that has the most money controls everything. And we need to understand that all those funds and all this money that was coming through from the US was also a way of just keeping control of all the other countries, whatever countries or organizations that they donated to. So as Africa, we need to start asking ourselves, how do we put money in the pockets of our people? When we can answer that question, then we are now moving forward. Otherwise, these other cute laws like land expropriation will not take Africa anywhere.
Good morning, Clement. I believe that the United Nations should just be disbanded and a new body should be running the world because they let themselves be compromised because of the funding that they get from USA. Thank you. Andrew from Protea.
Thank you, Andrew, and the rest of you that weighed in on that conversation about the United Nations.